My name is Celeste, 32 years old. The crystal chandeliers in my mother's dining room threw perfect light across the mahogany table, catching on every polished surface like we were all sitting inside a jewelry box. I had learned to appreciate how expensive everything looked here. The imported Italian plates, the Belgian linen napkins folded into precise shapes, the floral centerpiece that probably cost more than most people's rent. The whole room was designed to say one thing: we are not like you. My sister Rachel had insisted on this family dinner, but I knew her well enough to understand it was really about putting her engagement on display. Her fiancé, Devin, sat beside her in a perfectly tailored suit, cutting his Wagyu beef with the kind of careful precision you usually only see in surgery scenes on TV. "So, Celeste," he said politely, in that tone people use when they're trying to be gracious with the family embarrassment. "Rachel mentioned you're still doing the art thing." I took a small bite of asparagus, letting the butter and lemon sit on my tongue for a second. "I paint," I said calmly. "Yes." "How charming," Mom cut in, already refilling her wine glass, even though it was still half full. "We keep hoping she'll grow out of it. She's 32 now." Rachel laughed, the sound sharp and practiced, the kind of laugh she used at networking events. "Mom's being diplomatic. Celeste lives in a studio apartment in the warehouse district. She wore the same dress to the last 3 family events." I glanced down at my navy dress. Simple, well-made, comfortable, and yes, I had worn it before. "It's comfortable," I said. "That's exactly the problem," my brother Marcus muttered, still not looking up from his phone. He worked in tech, something with cryptocurrency that he loved to explain in excruciating detail to anyone unlucky enough to ask. No ambition, no drive, just painting things nobody wants. Devin's expression shifted into something between pity and discomfort. He tried to be diplomatic. "Well, the arts are important for culture and things." "She's never sold a single piece," Mom added, as if I wasn't sitting 3 feet away. "Not one. 32 years old, and she's never earned a real paycheck." I set my fork down gently. The salmon on my plate probably cost $80. I could have bought a week's worth of supplies with that money. "I've sold pieces," I said quietly. "To who?" Rachel demanded. "Your art school friends who also can't pay rent?" "Various collectors," I answered. Marcus finally looked up, eyebrows raised. "Collectors, right. Is that what we're calling the people who buy stuff at garage sales now?" "I'm just saying," Mom continued, her voice sliding into that tone she used when she wanted to sound reasonable while saying something cruel. "At some point, you need to accept reality. Your father and I paid for 4 years at an excellent university. You could have studied business, law, medicine. Instead, you chose art, and look where it got you." "She can't even afford a car," Rachel said, gesturing with her wine glass. "She takes the bus everywhere." "Can you imagine the bus?" Rachel added, turning to Devin like it was some kind of punchline. Devin shifted uncomfortably. "Public transportation is actually very efficient in this city." "You're sweet," Rachel said, touching his arm. "But no, it's embarrassing. Celeste, you could work at Dad's firm. Receptionist, maybe. At least you'd have health insurance." "I have health insurance," I said. "Through the government exchange," Mom replied, making it sound like a diagnosis. "Because you qualify as low income. Do you understand how that reflects on this family?" I took a sip of water. The ice clinked against the crystal. Baccarat, probably. Mom only used the best when Rachel brought Devin around. "She showed up to my engagement party in an Uber," Rachel told Devin as if sharing state secrets. "Not even Uber Black. Regular Uber." "I don't own a car," I said evenly. "Exactly," Marcus said, "because you can't afford one. You're living paycheck to paycheck." "Oh, wait," he smirked. "What paycheck?" "You're living off whatever random people give you for paintings they probably use to cover wall stains," Mom sighed, long and theatrical. "We had such hopes for you, Celeste. You were so bright in school. Remember when you won that essay contest in 10th grade? We thought you'd be a writer or a professor, something respectable." "Instead, she paints," Rachel said, shaking her head. "Pictures of random things, landscapes, portraits, nothing even original." "Actually, I started. "And don't get me started on her studio," Mom interrupted. "I visited once. Once. The building should be condemned. Concrete floors, exposed pipes, no proper heating. She has a hot plate for cooking, for heaven's sake." "It has character," I said softly. "It has roaches," Mom snapped. "I heard there were 3 of them running around in broad daylight." I could still see that visit in my mind, the way she'd wrinkled her nose at the brick walls while I'd been quietly negotiating a 7-figure sale over email. She'd never asked what I was working on. just pointed out dust and imagined insects. Devin was looking more uncomfortable by the second, his fork hovering midair. Well, I'm sure Celeste is doing what makes her happy. And isn't that what... Happy doesn't pay bills, Marcus cut in. Happy doesn't build equity. Happy doesn't prepare for retirement. You know what she has in her 401k? Nothing. Zero. I checked. I blinked slowly. You checked my retirement account? Mom gave me access, he said dismissively. Someone needs to monitor the family's financial health. You're a liability, Celeste. A 32-year-old liability with paint under her fingernails and delusions about making it as an artist. Rachel leaned forward, her engagement ring catching the light in a way she clearly enjoyed. It's just sad, honestly. Devin's sister is a doctor. His brother is a partner at a consulting firm. And then there's you, the failed artist who can't even afford to frame her own work. I frame my pieces, I said. With what, popsicle sticks? Marcus laughed at his own joke. Mom reached across and patted my hand, her expression dripping with manufactured sympathy. Sweetheart, we're not trying to hurt you. We're trying to help. You need to face facts. You're not going to make it as an artist. It's time to get a real job, something stable. Maybe meet a nice man with a career. Settle down. Devin, doesn't your firm have openings for administrative assistants? She added hopefully. I'd have to check, Devin said, clearly wishing he were anywhere else. See? Mom brightened. Opportunities. You could work in a proper office, wear professional clothes, contribute to society. Isn't that better than languishing in that terrible studio pretending you're the next Picasso? I never compared myself to Picasso, I said. Because you couldn't, Rachel shot back. Picasso was successful. Picasso sold paintings. Picasso didn't live in a converted warehouse with questionable wiring and take the bus to buy ramen noodles. I took another bite of asparagus. Perfectly seasoned, probably prepared by the private chef Mom hired after Dad's hedge fund took off. You know what I think? Marcus said, setting his phone down with a little thud. I think you're being selfish. Mom and Dad invested in your education, in your life, and you've given them nothing in return except embarrassment. Do you know what it's like for Mom at her country club? How are your children? Oh, Rachel's marrying an investment banker, Marcus works in tech, and Celeste? Well, Celeste paints. We tell people you're still finding yourself, Mom said sadly. At 32, still finding yourself. Most people have found themselves by 25. But not Celeste, Rachel chimed in. Celeste needs more time to discover that she has no marketable skills and no prospects. Devin cleared his throat. Rachel, maybe... No, she needs to hear this, Rachel insisted. We're family. If we don't tell her the truth, who will? Celeste, you're wasting your life. You have nothing. You've accomplished nothing. You're going nowhere. I'm content with my work, I said quietly. Content, Mom repeated, making the word sound poisonous. Content with failure. Content with poverty. Content with being a disappointment. Do you even have any paintings in galleries? I've shown in galleries, I said. Which ones? Marcus demanded. Real galleries, not some coffee shop that lets anyone hang stuff on the walls. I took another sip of water, the cold cutting through the heat in my chest. Exactly, he said triumphantly when I didn't answer fast enough. She can't even name them because they don't exist, or they're so tiny and pathetic they're not worth mentioning. Rachel turned to Devin with an apologetic smile. I'm sorry you have to see this. Celeste drags down every family gathering. She just sits there in her cheap dress, eating our food, contributing nothing to the conversation except vague claims about her art career. She lives in a fantasy world. Always has, Mom agreed. Even as a child, she was drawing instead of studying, painting instead of networking. We tried to guide her, but she was stubborn. Delusional, Marcus corrected. The word is delusional. I work every day, I said, my voice steady but softer now. Painting isn't work, Rachel snapped. Work is what Devin does, managing millions in investments. Work is what Marcus does, developing actual technology. Work is what I do, running marketing campaigns for Fortune 500 companies. What you do is a hobby you've romanticized into a career. The servers moved in to clear our plates, their faces neutral, eyes sliding past the humiliation happening center table. I wondered if they recognized cruelty when they heard it, or if they'd trained themselves not to listen. Dessert will be ready in a moment, Mom announced briskly. I had the chef prepare creme brulee. Celeste, you'll love it. I suppose you never get to eat things like this in your apartment. I cook for myself, I said. On a hot plate, Marcus added, like a college student, a 32-year-old college student who never graduated into real life. Devin's phone buzzed softly on the table. He glanced at the screen, then turned it face down. The markets are interesting today, he murmured, almost to himself. Always, Marcus agreed, grateful for any topic that involved numbers instead of empathy. I've been watching several stocks that could triple by year-end. Celeste wouldn't understand. I understand economics, I said. Rachel laughed outright. You understand how to not have any money. That's different from understanding economics. She probably doesn't even know what a stock portfolio is, Mom added. Or compound interest, Marcus said. Or equity, Rachel finished, pleased with their little chorus. Devin shifted in his chair again, clearly uncomfortable. Should we maybe talk about something else? You're right, Mom said with a crisp little nod. Celeste's failures are rather depressing dinner conversation. Let's discuss the wedding instead. Rachel, have you finalized the venue? The grand ballroom at the waterfront, Rachel said, her whole face brightening. 800 guests, full orchestra, imported flowers from Ecuador. Oh. Sounds beautiful, I said softly. You'll be invited, of course, Rachel replied, as if she were granting me a scholarship. Though please try to wear something appropriate. Maybe Devin can loan you money for a new dress as a gift. That's not necessary, I said. It really is, Mom insisted. You can't wear navy again. People will talk. They already talk enough about our family having a struggling artist. Speaking of struggling, Marcus said, pulling his phone back toward him. Celeste, when's the last time you had a real sale? And I mean real, not $50 from someone who felt sorry for you. I sell regularly, I said. To who? Rachel demanded. Name one person. My collectors prefer privacy, I said. Marcus snorted. Collectors, sure. Your imaginary collectors with their imaginary money buying your imaginary valuable art. The servers returned with dessert, placing the ramekins in front of each of us. The caramelized sugar tops glowed under the chandelier light, the kind of golden sheen that made everything look more perfect than it actually was. This probably costs more than Celeste spends on food in a week, Marcus said, tapping his spoon against the glassy surface. A month, Rachel corrected. Look at her. She's practically salivating. When's the last time you had a proper meal, Celeste? One that didn't come from a can or a microwave? I eat well enough, I replied. Well enough, Mom repeated. The motto of the unsuccessful. Good enough, well enough, never excellent, never exceptional, just enough. Devin's phone buzzed again, louder this time in the sudden lull of conversation. He frowned, picked it up, and his eyes widened slightly as he read the notification. Devin's eyes stayed fixed on his phone for longer than a simple notification required. The faint glow of the screen reflected in his pupils, and his brow creased in a way that snagged my attention even before he spoke. Huh, he said under his breath. Rachel noticed before anyone else. Devin, what is it? Her voice sharpened the way it did whenever she sensed someone's focus drifting away from her. He didn't answer right away. Instead, he scrolled, slowly at first, then faster, his lips parting slightly as though he were reading something impossible. It's breaking news, he finally murmured. Mom waved a dismissive hand. Unless the stock market just imploded, we don't need to hear about it right now. Devin swallowed. It's actually about art. The table fell into a silence so thick I could practically feel the temperature drop. Rachel's face twisted into something between annoyance and amusement. Oh, perfect, she said. More irrelevant nonsense. Devin ignored her. He tapped the screen again, voice tightening with concentration. Forbes released their annual list of top-earning contemporary artists. And, this is strange, they're talking about a completely anonymous artist who's been selling out exhibitions worldwide. Marcus snorted. Anonymous, right, probably some scam. Devin continued, almost to himself. Name is Meridian. Apparently no one knows who they are. No interviews, no public appearances, just the work. The room's energy shifted, not dramatically, not yet, but something in the undertone, like a low hum of electricity vibrating beneath the polished wood. Rachel exhaled dramatically. Oh, please. The art world is 90% hype, 10% money laundering. Mom nodded. Exactly. Those modern splatters. Anyone could do them. Even Celeste, if she tried hard enough. I kept my gaze on my dessert, cracking the caramelized shell with my spoon. I'd forgotten the servers were even there until one of them paused, looking strangely attentive. Devin's voice deepened. This artist sold over $300 million worth of work last year alone. Marcus's phone nearly slipped from his hand. 300 million? Yes. Devin kept reading. They're calling Meridian's work the most important artistic innovation in 20 years. Apparently, museums and private collectors have been fighting for pieces. Rachel made a choking sound. For splatters? Not splatters, Devin corrected. Mixed media, immersive installations, oil painting integrated with digital projection and sculptural elements. Very advanced. He swiped again, his eyes narrowing. They also mentioned Meridian keeps an extremely private studio in an industrial district. No known address. My heart thudded once, slow, heavy, like it wanted to warn me. Marcus reached across the table. Let me see. Devin hesitated, then handed over the iPad. Marcus zoomed in on one of the high-resolution photos. The room reflected on the glossy surface. My family, my mother sipping wine, Rachel adjusting her ring for the 100th time, Devin tense and curious, and me, sitting still as a statue. That technique, Marcus's voice trailed off. Rachel looked up. What now? Marcus didn't answer. He pulled up another image, then another. His breath grew shallow. No, he whispered. No way. Mom frowned. Marcus, what are you babbling about? It looks like every other overpriced painting in those ridiculous modern museums. Marcus ignored her, his eyes darting between images like he was comparing DNA samples. Look at the metallic layering, he muttered. The brushwork. The color interference pattern. This is the exact technique Celeste. Rachel barked out a laugh. Marcus, please. Celeste can barely afford metallic paint. He kept staring. This is identical to what she does, down to the texture. Mom rolled her eyes. Don't be absurd. Celeste paints little things, flowers, people's pets, whatever she does to pass the time. A strange calm spread through my chest, like standing in the dead center of a storm. Noise all around me, but a stillness at the core. Marcus turned to me slowly, the color draining from his face. Celeste, where is your studio again? I held his gaze. In the warehouse district. Which building? The old textile factory. He swallowed. On what street? I took a sip of water. Meridian Street. The room went silent. Not quiet. Silent. Rachel's fork clattered against her plate. Meridian. Street? Coincidence, Mom snapped quickly, though her voice cracked on the last syllable. People name things after streets all the time. Devin wasn't convinced. He grabbed the iPad back and started typing with rapid precision. I'm checking property records. Rachel gasped. Devin, that's invasive. So is calling your sister a financial liability, he murmured, without looking up. Seconds stretched like elastic. Then Devin froze. Oh my God. He turned the screen for everyone to see. The building was purchased 8 years ago and converted into artist studios. Owner is listed as ME Holdings, LLC. Mom blinked. Me? What does that even stand for? Devin typed again, fingers trembling. Registered to Celeste M. Parker. Rachel's face went pale, then green, then chalk white. That's impossible. Marcus pushed back from the table, chair scraping loudly. You own a 40,000 square foot building? A portion of it is my personal studio, I said quietly. The rest is rental units for other artists and gallery space. Rachel's mouth opened and closed like she couldn't decide which emotion to land on. Envy, denial, rage, or realization. Mom slowly set down her wine glass, hands shaking. Rental units? 12 artists rent from me, I said. Below market rate. Devin scrolled again, voice faint. Forbes says Meridian is known for supporting young artists, funding programs, donating tens of millions to arts organizations. The server, who'd been standing discreetly in the corner, suddenly stepped forward. She stared at me, eyes wide. Oh my God, is this about Meridian? She whispered. I love Meridian's work. Rachel rolled her eyes. Of course she does. But the server wasn't looking at her. She was looking at me. Her hand flew to her mouth. Wait, the brushwork, the materials. It's you. It's really you. I held her gaze. That isn't public information yet. She nodded rapidly. I won't say a word, I promise. Your work changed my life. Mom's wine glass tipped slightly, spilling droplets on the tablecloth. Marcus looked like he might be sick. Rachel's breathing went uneven. And Devin? Devin stared at me with unfiltered awe. The storm had broken. The room was no longer a jewelry box. It was a fault line, and everything was beginning to crack. Devin kept scrolling, his thumb trembling now, as if each new line on the screen carried the weight of a secret he wasn't meant to see. The air in the dining room had shifted. Gone was the snide confidence, the casual cruelty. In its place came something colder, sharper, more fragile. Fear, maybe, or the beginning of understanding. Marcus was the first to break. Celeste, he said, voice low and scratchy, please tell me this is some kind of joke, a misunderstanding, something. I folded my hands in my lap. About what? About you owning that building, he snapped. 40,000 square feet? Paid in cash? You're acting like that's normal. It isn't for me, I said simply. Rachel made a strangled sound, a half sob, half laugh. You? Celeste? You take the bus. I like the bus. You wear the same navy dress. I have others. I rotate. Mom's voice finally returned, cracked and brittle. But I visited that building. I saw concrete floors, dust, exposed pipes. You told me you used a hot plate. I do, I said. It's convenient when I'm working late. And the roaches? Rachel demanded with wild eyes. The roaches you let crawl all over your things. I never said roaches crawled over anything, I cut in calmly. 3 artists I hosted temporarily mentioned they had come from an infested apartment. I arranged pest control. Mom blinked. Then why did I hear... You assumed, I said. The word landed like a stone in a still pond. Ripples of discomfort spread outward. Devin swallowed hard, scrolling again. It says here Meridian's last 3 pieces were purchased by the Guggenheim. $87 million. Rachel's jaw dropped open like a faulty hinge. For what? A painting? A series, I said quietly. Large-scale installations. Mixed media. Light and shadow work. Marcus looked at me like I had turned into a ghost. How long have you been doing this? Really doing this? 12 years, I said, since I graduated. 12, and he cut himself off. That's your entire adult life. Yes, but you were always broke, Rachel insisted weakly, clinging to the version of me she knew. You told me you couldn't afford a car. I never said that. I said I don't like driving. You took the bus to my engagement party. I had wine at lunch with a curator from the Met, I said. I didn't want to drive afterward. Devin slapped a hand over his mouth, eyes widening at something else on the screen. The Met bought 3 of your pieces last year for $12 million each. Mom gasped. Million? Yes, Devin whispered. Each. Marcus staggered back in his chair. Celeste, are you actually wealthy? I tilted my head. Is that what you're asking? After everything you just heard? No, he said, shaking. No, I'm asking if you're billionaire wealthy. Rachel swayed slightly. No, she can't be. That's impossible. She paints in a warehouse. The article estimates Meridian's net worth between $800 million and $1.2 billion, Devin said quietly, reading every word as if afraid the screen might explode. Mom grabbed the table for support. Her wine glass shattered beneath her fingers. Nobody flinched. There's more, Devin added, once the silence stretched into something unbearable. It says Meridian owns several properties besides the studio building. A converted church in Portland, a warehouse in Brooklyn, and... Wait. He looked up. Do you own an entire block in downtown Chicago? I took a slow breath. Just 6 factory buildings. I'm converting them into affordable studios. The community needs creative space. Mom's lips parted without words coming out. Rachel looked faint. Marcus stared at me like I had cracked open the universe. Devin kept reading. Estimated combined value over $200 million. Marcus dropped his phone again, this time with a thud that echoed through the room. Oh my God, he whispered. We mocked you. We mocked your clothing, your studio, your finances, while you... He couldn't finish. I leaned slightly back in my chair. You mocked me because you assumed poverty meant failure, and failure meant I deserved it. Rachel covered her face with trembling hands. I called you pathetic. Yes, I said. I said you had no prospects. You did. I said you were embarrassing the family. Yes. Mom shook her head so hard her earrings slapped her jaw. But sweetie, we didn't know. We had no idea. You didn't ask. A small, devastating sentence. Rachel's voice cracked. Celeste, please, tell us why. Why didn't you say anything? I looked at her for a long moment. Her mascara had smudged beneath her eyes, a symbol of vanity dissolving under truth. Because, I said softly, I wanted to know who you were when you thought I had nothing. The silence that followed felt heavy enough to bend the walls. Mom grabbed at a napkin, dabbing her trembling mouth. But surely you could have corrected us. You could have said so much. And if I had, I asked, what would you have thought? That I lied, exaggerated, tried to impress you? Marcus flinched. He knew it was true. I didn't need your approval, I continued, and I didn't want your judgment. So I worked, quietly, while you made assumptions. Devin cleared his throat. There's something else here. All eyes turned to him. It says Meridian has donated over $15 million to arts education, funded scholarships, created programs for underserved communities. The server from earlier stood frozen in the doorway, as if witnessing something sacred. I nodded once. I believe in supporting other artists. Rachel wiped her face aggressively. You gave away millions while we thought you were scraping by? I gave where it mattered. Mom swallowed hard, voice trembling. Celeste, sweetheart, this is a terrible misunderstanding. Not terrible, I said evenly. Accurate. You understood that I painted, lived simply, and didn't display wealth. You just drew incorrect conclusions. Marcus's voice shook. I remember now. 6 years ago, you asked me about investing. I told you not to bother since you probably didn't have enough saved. How much did you have? I met his eyes. About 20 million. The sound Marcus made wasn't human. Half gasp, half choke, half plea. 20. He pressed a hand to his forehead. I told you to put it in a basic index fund. I did, I said pleasantly. About 5 million. The rest went into real estate and art acquisitions. Devin let out a low whistle. Smart. It has worked well for me. Marcus stared down at his hands like he finally understood the true scale of his ignorance. I told the world you were the family failure. And I let you, I said. Why? His voice cracked. Because I wanted to see if you respected me, I said quietly, regardless of money. And we didn't, Rachel whispered. No, I replied, you didn't. Devin took a deep breath, lowering the iPad. There's one more thing in this article. Everyone watched him like he was holding a detonator. He read slowly. Meridian is preparing for a major retrospective at MoMA. Tickets sold out in 42 minutes. There will be a reveal event, a public confirmation of their identity. I nodded once. Yes. Mom blinked rapidly. Were you planning to invite us? I was going to send formal invitations, I said, just like everyone else. And now? Rachel whispered. I looked around the table, at the broken glass, the ruined facade of superiority, the wreckage of assumptions scattered across the linen. Now, I said softly, depends on whether you learn anything from tonight. For a long, stretched moment, no one said anything. It felt like the entire dining room had turned to glass, fragile, shimmering, one wrong word away from shattering completely. Rachel sat frozen, her mascara smudged in dark crescents beneath her eyes. Mom clutched her napkin like it was a lifeline. Marcus looked hollowed out, as if someone had scooped out everything he thought he knew and left only disbelief. It was Devin who finally broke the silence. He cleared his throat, straightened in his chair, and took another look at the glowing screen in his hand. There's more, he said quietly. Mom jolted slightly. More? More what? Devin hesitated. His eyes flicked to me, searching for permission. I didn't nod, but I didn't stop him either. It says here that Meridian, Celeste, also owns 3 other properties, a renovated warehouse in Brooklyn, a converted church in Portland, and a series of factory buildings in Chicago. A church? Rachel whispered, sounding as if her voice had wandered off without her. You bought a church? It had good acoustics, I said. I use it sometimes for sound-reactive installations. Of course you do, Marcus muttered, barely audible. But he didn't say it with mockery. He said it with something closer to awe, or maybe shame. Devin kept reading. And the Chicago properties. Celeste, these buildings take up an entire city block. That neighborhood has a growing arts community, I said evenly. I wanted to support it. How many buildings? Marcus whispered. 6. 6? He repeated, voice cracking. Old factories, I clarified. I'm converting them into affordable studio spaces and exhibition rooms. The city was glad to approve it. They wanted revitalization. This can't be real, Rachel stammered. You can't just buy a block of Chicago. You can, I said, if you plan carefully. Devin scrolled again. Forbes estimates the combined value of those properties at over 200 million. Rachel pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. 200 million? Mom swallowed hard. Celeste, sweetheart, why didn't you tell us? Her voice finally sounded small, human, bare. I folded my hands together on the table. My fingers were steady. I felt almost unnervingly calm. You never asked, I said. Mom flinched like I'd slapped her. That's not fair, she whispered, unable to look at me. It's completely fair, I replied. You assumed I was failing. You treated me according to that assumption. You never asked if I was okay. You never asked about my work. You asked about my income, my clothes, my transportation. Never about me. Mom's lips trembled. We just wanted what was best for you. No, I said. You wanted me to make you proud in ways that matched your definition of success. And when I didn't fit the mold, you tried to shame me into it. Rachel wiped her face with shaking hands. I didn't know. I didn't understand how important your art was. I thought you were wasting your potential. I looked at her without anger, without softness, just truth. My potential was never yours to measure. She broke. shoulders shaking, breath hitching, tears falling freely. I'm sorry. Celeste, I'm so sorry. Mom looked from me to Rachel, then to Marcus, who stared at his empty plate like it was the last solid thing in his world. We can fix this, Mom said suddenly, desperate. We can start over. We can go to the country club and tell everyone that you're— No, Mom blinked rapidly. No, you are not telling your country club friends anything. But sweetheart, think of how proud they'll be. This isn't about them, I said sharply enough to make her stop talking. It's about you respecting my boundaries. Marcus exhaled shakily. We wouldn't use your name. Not if you don't want us to. You would, I said, because you already tried. He flinched. When? Every time you talked about my lack of success, my lack of money, my lack of a car. Every word was about status, not care, not love, status. Nobody argued. The realization landed in their eyes, in the slump of their shoulders, in the way their polished postures wilted. Devin looked up suddenly. There's something else in the article. Rachel groaned. Devin, please, no more surprises. He hesitated. Actually, you want to hear this? He turned the screen toward them again. Meridian's first major retrospective exhibition is opening at MoMA in 3 months. Mom blinked. Mo, what? The Museum of Modern Art, Devin said gently. One of the most prestigious art institutions in the world. Rachel's mouth fell open. The retrospective is expected to be the largest single artist exhibition they've curated in over a decade, Devin continued. Tickets sold out in 42 minutes. Marcus let out a hollow laugh. I spent years teasing you about your bus rides. Meanwhile, MoMA was scrambling to schedule a room big enough for your fans. Not fans, I said quietly. Viewers, patrons, people who connect with the work. Devin swallowed. The article mentions a reveal event. Yes, I said. Rachel's voice was thin. Were you going to invite us? I paused. The answer mattered more than they understood. This dinner, I said, was a chance to see whether you cared about me. Not my success, not my reputation, me. Rachel stared at me through red-rimmed eyes, and we failed. You didn't ask me a single question about my life, I said. Not one. Everything you asked was about status, wealth, appearances. You never once asked me if I was happy. Mom was openly crying now, tears running down the flawless foundation she wore for a perfect night that had turned into ruin. Celeste, she whispered, please, give us a chance. We can make this right. You can try, I said, but not tonight. Tonight was honest. Brutal, but honest. I pushed my chair back gently, and now I know. Rachel's voice trembled. Know what? Who you've been, I said simply. Who you chose to be when you thought I had nothing. Who you might become if you can learn from tonight. Marcus rubbed his face with both hands. I don't deserve forgiveness. I didn't say you did, I replied. Forgiveness isn't automatic. Neither is respect. You'll have to earn both. Devin set down the iPad. Celeste, for what it's worth. I've always admired Meridian's work. Before tonight, before knowing anything. I nodded once. Thank you for saying that. Mom sobbed harder. Celeste, sweetheart, I'm begging you, don't shut us out. I'm not shutting you out, I said softly. I'm setting boundaries. The rest is up to you. Their desperation filled the room like a fog. But it didn't pull me in. Not this time. I stood. I have work to do, I said. Rachel gasped. Tonight? After all this? I have a commission due next week, I replied. A triptych for a private collector in Singapore. How much is something like that worth? Marcus whispered. 20 million, I said. But he's been patient. The shock in their faces was almost surreal. But the most surreal thing of all, for the first time in my life, I felt completely, utterly free. I picked up my simple canvas bag, and as I turned to leave, the room behind me quivered with the weight of everything they'd never bothered to know. Rachel rose halfway from her seat as if her body wanted to follow me even while her pride tried to keep her grounded. Celeste, wait, she whispered, voice raw. Please, just one more minute. Her mascara had smudged even further, leaving blurred shadows beneath her eyes. She looked small for the first time in years. Not powerful, not polished, not perfect. Just a sister desperate to reach across a chasm she didn't realize she'd spent a lifetime widening. I paused but didn't sit back down. Rachel's breath shuddered. I don't have your real number. You never asked, I said simply. No, she insisted, stepping toward me. I mean, you always gave me that basic cell number. I assumed that is my real number. But how do people reach you? She whispered. How do collectors, galleries, museums contact you? I have a business manager, I said, and an agent and attorneys. They handle all communication related to my work. The cell phone is for personal calls. Rachel blinked at me, then looked down, ashamed. And I didn't make the list of personal calls. The truth didn't sting me. It stung her. She wasn't used to being the one left out. I don't keep many personal connections, I said quietly, only meaningful ones. Marcus let out a shaky breath. Celeste. His voice cracked as he stood up slowly. I need to say something. The last time Marcus said those words, he had followed them with a condescending lecture about my non-existent retirement plan. This time, his hands trembled. I'm sorry, he said. No embellishment, no theatrics, just the bare truth. I've been awful to you for years. Judgmental, cruel, dismissive, and I don't have an excuse. Mom looked stunned at his admission. Rachel froze mid-sob. Even Devin lifted his gaze, recognizing the rarity of Marcus's humility. Marcus swallowed hard. I saw your life through the lens of money, success, metrics, and I assumed you had none, so I treated you like you were lesser. His voice broke. That was wrong, he whispered. I should have respected you because you're my sister, not because of what you earn. I nodded slowly. I accept your apology. Marcus visibly deflated with relief, but then I added, but accepting it doesn't mean everything is suddenly repaired. Respect isn't something I can snap back into place, not after years of being talked down to. He nodded, tears threatening to spill. I know, and I'll prove it. I swear I will. Mom suddenly rose, her chair screeching across the polished floor. Celeste, please, listen to me. I turned toward her. Mom stepped around the end of the table, moving carefully, like approaching wild glass that might cut her if she moved too quickly. Her face was streaked with tears, her perfect makeup no longer masking the desperation in her eyes. I love you, she whispered. You're my daughter. I love you. I always have. I held her gaze, searching for truth beyond the performance. Do you? I asked gently. Or do you love the idea of what I can now do for your social standing? She inhaled sharply as if I'd pierced her. No, that's not... 2 hours ago, I said, you told me I was a disappointment, that I needed health insurance through your connections, that I should give up and get a real job, that my life, my work, was embarrassing. Mom covered her mouth with shaking fingers. I didn't mean... Yes, I said softly, you did, and that's okay. People often mean their cruelty when they believe it's the truth. She broke then, shoulders shaking, tears falling. Celeste, she whispered, I was wrong about everything. Please don't push us away. Don't let this night be the last time we're together. I'm not pushing you away, I said, but I'm not going to pretend everything is fine either. I deserve respect whether I'm successful or not. Rachel sobbed quietly. Marcus wiped his face. Devin watched silently, understanding more than he wanted to admit. I stepped back slightly, preparing to leave, when Devin's phone buzzed again. He looked down and froze. His expression shifted, conflicted, almost nervous. It's my managing partner, he murmured. He wants to know if I can confirm whether you're... No, I said sharply, before Rachel could even breathe. Devin's head jerked up. I wasn't going to say anything without your permission, I swear. If you confirm anything, I said calmly, I will call your managing partners myself and explain that you attempted to exploit a family connection without my consent. He paled. I won't say anything. Good, I said. I appreciate that. Rachel reached for him with a trembling hand. Devin, don't. Please don't ruin this for us. He nodded slowly, swallowing hard. Then Rachel turned to me again. Celeste, are you going to come to the wedding? It was a fragile question, a small, broken thing holding the weight of years. I don't know, I said honestly. Rachel's face twisted. But you're my sister. I want you there, truly. And I want to believe that, I said. But tonight isn't about weddings. Tonight is about accountability. Rachel cried harder. You'll get my RSVP, I said, with the wedding gift. What gift? She whispered. One of my early pieces, I said, from when I was just a failed artist, something to remember this night by. Rachel pressed a hand to her heart like I'd pierced it. I picked up my canvas bag, slinging the familiar weight over my shoulder. You can still earn your way back into my life, I told them, but you'll need to start by fixing your values, not my career. Mom stumbled forward a step. Celeste, please, don't walk out angry. I'm not angry, I said gently. Just done. And with that, I turned toward the hallway, my footsteps silent against the marble floor. Behind me, the air filled with broken apologies and soft sobs. Someone pushed a chair back too hard. Someone else whispered my name like a prayer or a plea. But I didn't turn back. Not this time. I walked down the hallway toward the front door, my canvas bag resting softly against my hip. The house was too quiet now. No clinking glasses, no smug laughter, no lectures about stability, respectability, or the shame of taking public transportation. Only the faint echo of everything that had just collapsed. Their assumptions, their hierarchies, their rehearsed superiority. Behind me, I heard a chair scrape back. "Celeste, please," Mom called, her voice trembling. "Don't go like this." But I didn't slow. Not out of spite. Out of self-preservation. For years, walking out of this house had felt like defeat. Tonight, it felt like air filling my lungs, for the first time in decades. I reached the foyer. The marble gleamed under the chandelier light, the same way it had when I was a kid, sneaking in late after art club events. Back then, the shine made me feel small. Tonight, it looked like nothing more than polished rock. When I opened the door, a cool gust of night air rushed in, gentle and grounding. The sound of the city filtered through, traffic humming, a distant dog barking, the soft hush of wind moving through tall hedges. "Celeste," Rachel's voice cracked behind me. "Please, just wait." I turned slightly, not fully, just enough to show I wasn't heartless. My sister stood there, arms wrapped around herself, engagement ring sparkling under the foyer chandelier, face streaked with mascara and regret. "I'm not asking you to forgive us tonight," she said, breath shaky. "I'm just asking you not to give up on us forever." I studied her for a moment. For the first time, her desperation didn't feel manipulative. It felt real, human. "I'm not giving up on you," I said, "but I'm not rushing back into the same dynamic either." Rachel nodded, tears spilling again. I understand." Marcus appeared behind her, eyes red, jaw tight. "I'll call you. Not about money, not about success, just to talk." "You can try," I said. He deflated, but nodded. It was more than he deserved. Mom hovered behind them both, unable to bring herself forward, unable to shrink back. The weight of everything unsaid pressed against the edges of her face. "Sweetheart," she whispered, "I love you, even if it didn't look like it tonight." "It didn't look like it for years," I said quietly. She closed her eyes, the truth knocking the breath from her. But she didn't argue, and that was something new. I stepped outside. The door remained open behind me. The night smelled like pavement cooling after a long day. Crisp, clean, honest. I moved down the walkway toward the streetlights, each step lighter than the last. Halfway down the path, my basic cell phone buzzed. A sharp vibration in the quiet. I glanced at the screen. "Business manager. MoMA has 3 press requests from international outlets. Want me to decline?" I typed back one-handed. "Me. Yes, decline." Another message came in almost instantly. "Business manager. Louvre curator wants to schedule a call tonight if possible." I paused under a street lamp, its warm light spilling onto the sidewalk. "Me. Tomorrow morning." Another buzz. "Gallery director. Tokyo. We'd like to commission 3 pieces for our spring exhibition." I tucked the phone back into my bag. The work would be there when I returned. It always was. That was the blessing of living for something bigger than applause or approval. The bus stop sat at the corner, illuminated by a flickering LED schedule sign. The driver pulled up just as I approached. We'd developed a comfortable routine over the years, a small nod exchanged, like a ritual. He smiled faintly. "Evening, Celeste." "Evening," I said. I climbed aboard and moved to my usual seat near the window. The doors closed with a soft hiss. The bus rumbled forward. City lights streaked past like brushstrokes across a dark canvas. My phone buzzed again. I almost ignored it. "Almost." "Marcus, Celeste, please, we need to talk, really talk, not about money, about family." I stared at the message, then locked the phone without replying. "Not yet. Maybe not for a long time. Maybe someday." The bus turned onto a wider street, heading toward the warehouse district. My district. My building. My 40,000 square foot sanctuary where I'd poured 12 years of my life into canvases, installations, dreams turned tangible. As the city blurred by, my reflection flickered. In the bus window, a simple navy dress, a canvas bag, paint beneath my nails, still the same on the outside. But inside, different, freer, stronger, understood by myself, even if not yet by them. Sometimes the best revenge isn't confrontation or shouting or proving someone wrong. It's living, fully, unapologetically, expansively, until their assumptions crumble under the weight of your truth. And sometimes it's choosing silence, letting people sit with what they've done, letting them feel the emptiness where their certainty once lived. The bus rumbled on. I rested my head lightly against the window, watching the city I'd conquered shimmer against the dark. Maybe they would change, maybe they wouldn't. Either way, for the first time in my life, it didn't define me. I smiled. A small, quiet smile, the kind that happens when the world finally sees what you always knew. And sometimes, just sometimes, that's enough.